And so the next piece here is a pretty big one. I think a lot of people who look at their chart, they kind of say, "Hey, is my life then written for me? Because if I just follow this chart, then I'm just kind of living out my destiny." However, it's really interesting because if we talk about reincarnation and the concept of reincarnation, then we have to understand what is a soul and why did the soul choose to reincarnate. And if the soul chose to reincarnate to experience things, and maybe the soul actually has free will, and when it was up in the heavens before it came through the portal of the womb for our mother, maybe our soul chose a chart. Our soul chose to know when we were going to be born, so that it would actually create a destiny for itself that allowed it to experience things that maybe they haven't been experiencing in other lifetimes. Now, the piece of free will, so Destiny Fate usually kind of talks about how things are written for you, and that you just, you have your guides and you have God or divine energies that is already writing the story, and you're just living it. However, I think it's a very simple concept, simple idea, because you're only seeing it from the perspective of you being born right now, you being alive at this moment. But if you're able to actually see your astrology chart and see that you have incarnated many lifetimes, then you would realize that free will starts at the soul level, right? And so at the soul level, you chose your chart. It's like an actor who chooses a role in a movie. Let's say, we are in a superhero movie. There are two types. There are Marvel, where Marvel takes a much more funny / action-packed movie, but recently Justice Leagues and the DC world chose a much more darker role to the superhero concept. So the same idea. The destiny, maybe you're supposed to be a superhero in your life. However, your free will is whether you're going to be a lot more fun and playful about your destiny as a hero, or do you want to take a much more darker tone and be upset that you're a hero and you have a dramatic story. Now, I know that depending on which sun sign element you chose, you might be either a Marvel character or a DC character. However, I'm just trying to show also that even in the free will, when you are incarnated to be a superhero, when you go through your origin story, you get to choose whether you actually become the hero that you're supposed to, or you live by what everybody's telling you to, right? In Spider-Man, it was Ben who told him that beautiful story. And you see in today's the Spider-Man and Into the Spider-Verse that all these milestones, right? These what do we call canon events, destiny events that were already written in your astrology chart. However, how you came to this event is up to you. And you see it even in the story where when you change a canon event a little bit because you chose something else, it's almost like destiny will kind of adjust your timeline and the people that show up to make sure that you are still going towards your destiny. However, this is where the idea of free will is, where you are already the soul that chose your chart. So by living it, you also have the choice to live out your destiny, right? Because free will doesn't mean that you don't follow destiny or you do follow destiny. Actually, free will means you get to choose whether you follow your destiny or not. And so a lot of the spiritual concept talked about this idea of the angel and the demon. The angel kind of lines you up back to your destiny. It tends to have a much more tough voice to you because it's trying to get you to live your spiritual destiny, which comes with some effort. Right? You have to learn how to do things because you didn't learn how to do these in past life. However, the demon kind of tells you, hey, you really want to go and read those books and study Chinese medicine, or do you want to just go watch TV for another 10 hours? Maybe do some Netflix binging, right? Don't worry about those books. Those books will be there tomorrow. You don't need to study tonight, right? My destiny is still to be the doctor, but whether I took longer because I was binge watching Netflix, that's up to me. And so this is the idea that free will actually Really, I believe that free will, if it doesn't have choice, is not free will. If you didn't know that you had a destiny, you would actually have no free will, because everything that's happening to you, you believe you have to kind of live, right? If someone tells you, Charlie, you're an Asian men do this, and I chose to do that, I wouldn't be living in free will. I'd be living based on the expectations that people see me as an Asian male, and I chose to follow that path. That's not free will, right? That's destiny thrown and thrust upon me. But actually, if I were to look at my chart, realizing that my soul had a destiny, and I get to actually go into the destiny with choice, that to me is the greatest free will that I have, right? In my chart, I can be a Leo and I can be a Virgo. I can choose to stay home for the next 2 months, or during Leo time, go out and meet a ton of people and have a great time, right? However, it is still my choice whether I'm going to express my natal chart through a Virgo, especially during a transit. If Virgo, then, right now with Gemini, I know that my Leo energy gets to have a lot more support versus actually my Virgo does too, because Virgo and Gemini have Mercury in conjunction. Anyways, it gets very technical there. But what I'm trying to say is, let us go deeper into this concept of free will and destiny, because I think too many people fight this concept of destiny because suddenly someone showed them their own destiny in an astral chart, right? It's so beautiful that the day you were born, you took your breath, your destiny was set. Yet, as humans, we get to experience free will because we get the angel and the demon that likes to tempt us one way or the other to follow our destiny or not. And so the deeper concept of this destiny is actually what I really believe is what's missing in a lot of these spiritual concepts and new age concept is shadow work, shadow play, actually facing the things that are difficult for you to face because you're so busy living in love and light, living in perfection, living in nothing is bad, everything is good, right? And to that, we all experience this. We've probably experienced spoiled children, right? The idea that these kids do not know how to take no for an answer, right? Or will keep doing something or they'll throw a temper tantrum because they're not getting their way. And what's really beautiful about following your destiny is that your destiny already has shadow play for you to experience. And shadow play, what I mean is that you're going to experience that dark aspect of your sign so that you can come face to face with it and actually learn how to transform that dark energy into actually something more powerful that you can use. And so a lot of the signs that show up in astrology as really fun shadow masters at shadow play. Gemini is a really fun one because Gemini already comes two-faced, right? So it's always playing with the demon and the angel. And so because of that, they're really good at naming the shadow. They may not want to go play with the shadow, but they'll be able to recognize it. They'll be able to name both the angel and the demon that's on your shoulders. Capricorn, also known as the devil card, is actually trying to teach you, like a really strict parents, how to reduce your distraction so you can really focus on what you need to develop to be really, really structured and powerful in a certain attribute, right? And so because of that, Capricorn's in the tarot card shows up as a devil card who gave the guy in the prison, opens the door to the prison, gives him the keys and say, you can walk out of the prison wherever you want to, right? And so maybe this whole idea that staying in the light, always talking about the good things in life, is actually its own prison. You actually don't grow when you having too much of a good experience, right? This is, again, spoiled children. If they haven't been tested through challenges, will keep throwing temper tantrum because they're not getting what they expected rather than grow from challenges. Scorpio always gets the bad rep. They're always told, oh, they're the villain of everybody's story. But what if they're just triggering you to experience an emotion so you can start going down and face your own shadow? Big one, right? And Virgo is the same. Where Scorpio does it emotionally, Virgo does it with the practicality. Say, hey, you can choose to be a new age psychic and talk to people and do people's astrology, but if you don't actually clean the dishes and clean your room, your actual psychic energy will dim because you don't have the structure to support your ability to be in flow, to be with spiritual energy. And so this is kind of where a lot of time when we go into these spiritual groups, religious groups, they get into the very like nebulous ideas of gods and angels and demons and spirituality, but they won't even tell you the simple things as, make sure to clean your room, make sure to wash yourself, make sure to take a bath, right? And today it's more obvious now because everyone usually takes showers every day because we have a shower in each of our houses. 100 years ago, we did not have that, right? So it was easy to actually say, hey, I'm never going to clean myself. And this is kind of where shadow work would happen. And so this is why it's important to understand which shadows are showing up in your chart, because Gemini, Capricorn, Scorpio, and Virgo are actually in all of our charts. Most of us have these. And so sometimes when a transit shows up in Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Gemini, actually a lot of Gemini happening right now, a lot of us are probably talking about shadow work, shadow play right now. And that's kind of what's really interesting. I call it shadow play because I have a Virgo Leo concept, and so I don't like to get into the working a lot. I like to get into the playful a lot. I think play therapy is much more powerful than work therapy. I've lived my life being a child of a tiger mom, and everything has been work for me, and I hated it. And so when I switched to actually just playing with the idea of doing what I love to do while still studying, my life changed, right? And it's because I was able to accept that I was also a Leo element, and I love to play. I can do the work. I've been doing the work, right? But I wasn't happy. So when I actually made shadow work become shadow play, now I love doing shadow play. And so as a Virgo, I do go into my own transits. I go into my own hermit mode, and I really go deeper into what it means to face my own shadows, my own problems, my own insecurities, to understand why I'm so insecure. Because maybe my insecurity, once I realize, is just a shadow of my imagination when I was 10 years old, and it disappears, I no longer have the limitation to be afraid, right? Let's say I'm afraid to go out into the water, and I chose never to go out into the water because it's raining right now. I don't want to go out in the water. But if I'm able to face going out into the rain or into an ocean and breathe through the trauma, I'm able to actually face that shadow. And suddenly I love the water. It's suddenly in my chart, all these elements that were actually very water energies suddenly open up because I'm ready to face the shadow that I've been avoiding for so long. And so shadow play is so beautiful in giving us a lot of healing. And this is where I think many spiritual concepts really struggle with going through shadow play with love. I think a lot of them are so afraid of shadow play that they think only light can change shadows. No. With the greatest light comes the greatest shadows. And so we have to be very careful that if we're only in love and light, we have bigger shadows that are just around the corner, right? And so it's remembering that it's in the darkness of night that the stars will shine, right? Because the only star that shines during the day is the sun. Everybody disappears, right? And so this very deeper concept that maybe in the sun you actually don't see the night sky, and only in the night sky can you see everybody's light. And so just a real quick, in astrology, every sign with their gifts has also the shadow element. So in chaos, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, which is the earth element, well, earth element is all about organizing, structure, and creating order. And so it makes sense that chaos is its opposite element. For the fire signs, fire brings warmth, but also brings darkness. Brings light to the darkness. And so without the light, you have to experience darkness. And the void actually represents all the emotions that you're able to experience, right? And so when the water element is not able to experience any or all of the elements all at once, it becomes very overwhelmed. And so this is where the sign is not able to be themselves. And oblivion is really interesting because oblivion just doesn't mean it exists. And so a lot of times air signs love to label things, love to explain things because they are bringing things into existence with just words, right? So when they don't exist, it's almost like no one can see the air signs, right? No, the air signs are not able to communicate what they're creating. And so, okay. And so this is kind of the biggest piece for me has been why has astrology been attacked so much, right? I remember about, I think 2012, 2013, when I was going to astrology, the Pope said something about how astrology would lead you to the devil, right? It's really interesting going back to this concept of like, this is what I was saying, shadow work, shadow play. Yes, if I can't face the devil, then I realize the devil within me is also just me. It's just my own shadow turning things that I'm afraid into this concept of the devil or demons, things that I don't want to actually experience. And so this is a deeper conversation on psychology where it's easy for us to go, oh, this is an angel thing, so I'm just going to follow it. But actually, sometimes things that look like angelic things to one person may not be what they need because in their chart, that's not what they need to grow, right? And so one concept of an angel for one person may not be the same for another. And so what's really powerful now is that if you know who you are, you would actually be able to live your divine destiny. So if someone is hiding this from you, aren't they just hiding who you are, right? And so that you've seen this kind of censorship going on in religion. It's ironic that all these people talk about astrology. I don't believe in astrology. Astrology is for woo-woo people. Astrology has no science foundation. We turned astrology into astronomy because we wanted to still acknowledge the planets in the solar system, but we did not want to acknowledge the effects that they were having on us, right? Which is ironic because now we are in the age of quantum entanglement, which is basically connecting to spiritual energy, right? So this idea that your thoughts create reality because of the quantum entanglement, this is why the world is censoring our abilities because they don't want you to realize that you actually, because of your chart, are your own manifester of your own reality because you already have a destiny written for you. And you have written that own story. And so this idea of where power over you, right? We see it in religion all the time. Why only men showing up as priests? Why aren't there women who can help us, lead us to divinity and the Godhead, right? Why do corporate jobs tell us how to do things? Why does medicine tell us what we can and cannot do? This is kind of this whole idea of why I am where I am today because I chose to leave corporate medicine because corporate medicine wasn't giving me my individual medicine. It didn't know who I was. And if I didn't know who I was, it'd be easy for me to take their drugs, which I did. And my own stories, I had so many issues with the prescription drugs that I experienced in Western medicine, corporate medicine. So when I actually studied astrology, I was able to understand what my own destiny was, and I changed the way I was eating, and I changed the way I was treating my health. You know, and so this is, again, like when you go to medicine, is a doctor telling you what you need to do? Or has the pharmacist told you maybe you have to change your prescription? Or is it the insurance that says if you can't pay for any of it, you can't have any of it? So really, who's in charge of your own health? Who is in charge of your medicine? And that's the deeper conversation, is who is in charge of you? How do you know who you are? In traditional Chinese medicine, everyone is different. And because of that, we diagnose everyone at the day you come into our clinic because the moment you're here today is different from the moment you were yesterday or 2 weeks ago. Same thing in astrology. Because of transits, 2 weeks ago during a Mercury retrograde, you might feel like everything was falling apart. Yet after this Mercury retrograde, you feel fine. And so it would show up if you showed up in my clinic and you're like, hey, we're going through Mercury retrograde. You seem a little frazzled. Maybe you should take a breather. I don't need to give you all these drugs, but maybe you should allow yourself to look at things more clearly every time you send an email, because in 2 weeks, you won't be so anxious. You know, how powerful is that to be able to, even women, okay? Women and their cycles. You know, in Chinese medicine, we understand that there's cycles. However, the moon is so connected to women's cycles. This is why you see women sync up during the full moon, new moon. Actually, I've heard recently women will change their cycles depending on whether or not they're falling in love. Because when they do fall in love, you know, naturally, reproductively, they do feel connected to this other person, to this man. And they want to have children with them. The reproduction cycle starts. And so their body will actually tune to, and I'm not sure if it's a full moon or new moon, but they'll tune to one of these moons to allow their bodies to actually prepare for a connection with another person, right? And so this is how powerful astrology is. It really gives us an understanding who we are, but it gives us as a collective how we can work together and connect together and really be able to appreciate each other, right? I never try to tell someone who's like a heavy fire sign, hey, you need to stop overreacting. You need to stop being so dramatic. No, they're fire signs. They're always going to be dramatic. They're always going to be, you know, but guess what? When we go and have fun, it's the fire signs I want to go hang out with, right? When I'm at home and I want to cry a good session, I'm probably not going to ask a fire sign to come join me. I'm probably going to call my closest friends who have some water elements in them to kind of sit down and cry with me, right? So because of that, like, be aware of how you need to experience life, because that will give you a deeper understanding of how to heal yourself. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of those, right? And so this last quote I really want to share is because you guys know JP Morgan? JP Morgan Chase, y'all. Banker, okay? Very, very, very wealthy bankers. Their quote is, millionaires don't use astrology, but billionaires do. You know why? Imagine this. Imagine I own a fashion industry. And I know when the summer is going to hit, when the winter is going to hit, when the fall season hits, right? But because of that, I also know that everyone buys bikinis and swimsuits to go into the water during summer. In the winter, everyone wears coats, right? So I would actually make clothing during the summers for the winter time, so that by the winter time, I have so many jackets and pants and warm weather clothes to sell during the winter months. That's how billionaires keep making the billions. They already know how the entire planet is going to react because of transits. And they probably also know where their wealth shows up in their chart. So they put all, so usually someone who has an ability to be involved in the clothing industry probably has some Libra energy, right? Libra is very much connected to fashion and design and clothing. And so because of that, if they had a strong fashion house and some Saturn in their Libra house, I'd tell you, go invest in a ton of clothing companies. And those people know exactly when the transits happen to, this is why the 90s clothing have come back around. This is kind of where my niece likes to tell Uncle Charlie, the 90s have come back. Oh, okay. The astrology cycles have come back around because the 90s, whatever was happening in the 90s, those astrology transits are showing up again today. So if I was a fashion person, I would go, hey, the 90s are coming back. Let's go buy a whole bunch of 90s for sale, 90s clothing for sale, or literally recreate more clothing for fashion industry and then sell it again during the 90s reboot. And so that's how billionaires move people. I mean, because everybody's suddenly going to love the 90s, right? The nostalgia. I think it's also because of the 90s, a lot of us are now grown up as the adults, and we probably have kids now. And so we feel very nostalgic to the 90s clothing, and we're probably buying the 90s clothing for our children also because of astrology. So again, it's a really beautiful thing to you don't need to know astrology to feel what's happening and to see and to experience that astrology is happening. However, if you already know that the summer is coming, you're not going to invest in winter clothing. Same idea with astrology. You don't need to know your chart, but if you're misinvesting your wealth because you don't know what kind of wealth you should be investing in, then you end up suffering and you end up having mental illness and physical illness and depression, right? And that's why the wealthy keep getting wealthy, because they use astrology. So again, you don't have to believe in astrology, but know very well that there are tons of people who do believe in it and do really well because of it, okay? And I'm just one of them. I think my life, as much as like some people don't think that I may be a successful Asian male, I'm Charlie. I'm just Dr. Charlie Trin, experiencing my own personal life. I wouldn't have been an acupuncturist if I followed what people were telling me, right? My chart told me to go into medicine, and I've been avoiding medicine for 20 years, y'all. I've been an engineer doing tech for 20 years because I didn't want to go into medicine. And then when I looked at my chart and realized I actually have gifts in medicine, and so I had to actually find acupuncture and my own traditional medicine rather than just go to Western medicine where everyone's telling me, Charlie, you can make a ton of money there, or Charlie, you can help a lot of people there. That wasn't what I was meant to do. And so my chart gave me more confidence to follow my own path, and I'm super happy to be there. And this is why I want people to experience this and to share, to understand who they are so that they can choose the right path, the right story for them. Okay. And so finally, in conclusion, this whole series is all about knowing yourself. And so I want astrology to be part of it. I'm going to start having other series about, I want to do pranic healing. I want to do some other concepts. And so I'm hoping that I can kind of break those down for you so you guys have an opportunity to check out different modalities. And so the only thing I like to share with you is trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your gut. All these are subjective alarms within your body. And so you know what you need. Don't let someone outside of you who does not experience emotions like you do, experience food like you do, in your physical body like you do, tell you what you should be doing for your health. And so in this beautiful self-healing journey, I would like all of you all to just take a deep breath and listen to the feelings and the subtle energies that happen inside of us, because those are the way that your soul is trying to connect with you to help you heal whatever you need to be healing. Okay? So thank you so much. Oh, last thing, because I'm still new to all this YouTube stuff. If you guys would like to reach me, I do astrology charts, I do natal charts, I do solar returns, which is like birthday charts. And I'm also learning new ways every time. When I'm more of a student right now. I know enough to teach, but I'm a student and I'm learning by doing your charts, because I know enough to be able to download what comes through. And a lot of times when it comes through, it's something I just learned. And so I'm open here for anyone who's interested in doing just a natal chart or even a solar return. So you can find me on social, Dr. Charlie Trin, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and I'm Cosmic Trinity on Instagram. Here's my phone number and my email if you're interested. And I will have a breakdown of how to read astrology in the foundations here in my description. So if you're interested, check that out first and then kind of look at your chart. And yeah, if you get super confused and you just want a quick, 1 hour reading with me, please contact me. I'd love to be able to work with you to help you kind of tune into your own chart so that you can be in charge of your health and wealth. Okay. So you guys have a great day. So thank you for coming on this really long, I'm sorry, it was a very long podcast today, but I love astrology. So I just really want for all of you to share kind of my passion and what has helped me the most in my own self-healing journey. Okay. So until next time, thank you all. And you guys have a great one. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like and notification. Okay, that's what I'm supposed to do for YouTube. Thank you, everyone.